right, we are now live and recording. Welcome everyone to the second budget hearing for the initial 2027 draft budget. This is the 7 o'clock meeting. We had one earlier today at noon as well, and that is posted on the EDOMI webpage if you want to reference it. And this one as well will be posted tomorrow. I'll get it over to Dennis to get brought up online. Without further ado, I shall move on. And Cedric, please feel free to interrupt at any time. If you have questions, I'll also pause and ask.
Okay.
But if you have a question, please chime in. Michelle as well, and
Okay.
Susan too. I know you listened earlier, but if there's questions, please hop in. All right, so our mission budget committee is a subset of our diocesan council. Michelle, who's on with us, is the chair of the committee. We also have Terry Landreth, Jay Armstrong, Kathleen Walworth, and myself, Chris Ventura. I am the CFO of the diocese and also the treasurer for council. So just a quick overview. The diocesan budget is it's responsible for all the general fund essentially is what we would call it. So these are undesignated funds that go for our operating budget, and that income is broken out into three different categories. The largest is our apportionment, which are the congregational payments, which represents about 67% of our overall income. The next piece is 24% is dividends and interest. So those are the quarterly dividends that are paid out by the Growth and Income Fund, which is housed over in the trust by the trustees. And then we have a perpetual trust. It's the Tannehill Foundation that gets us about 9% of our income. Currently, the way we kind of bucket our expenses is across four key program groups. So we have our congregational vitality, episcopate, public witness, and then administration, which is just the general overhead, like myself, HR, and the other finance team members. I'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide. And then as we're starting to build our initial draft budget for 2027, instead of going down to the program level at this point, we're just looking at the higher up its expense category. So just our total expenses that we expect across the different expense buckets, which we'll show those in a couple slides here. But we got like salaries and benefits in there, professional services, and just stuff like that. So in preparing our budget, the research that we've seen from the Social Security Administration, the projection for the Social Security increase for next year is right around the 4% level. Um, we all know things are still prices are still up, right? We still suffering inflation and who knows what's going to happen. But for now, we just went with 4%. We also did a 4% increase on healthcare, and like the insurances, like short-term, long-term disability, life insurance, dental. That may be a little bit low. We'll see when the actual numbers come in, and we'll just have to adjust appropriately once we get that. We typically get those numbers August, September timeframe. And then we had a few areas where we could utilize some funds, so we put some increases there, and we'll discuss that in a little more depth a couple slides from now. And then, as was with the 2026 budget and collection of the information that goes into the apportionment calculation, um, we had to use the supplemental parochial report again. We do have about 10 congregations that we're working with still that either didn't give us any information or their information seems off. So I've adjusted as best as I possibly could, um, for that. So as we get closer to our actual budget and folks are sending in their pledges, we'll be able to tighten that number up a little bit more. Any questions at all at this point? Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, how we currently bucket our expenses across like four different program groups. This is the list. The number in the parenthesis is simply just our program code that we use internally. But sometimes, it's interesting to see that or helpful to know what those are. So within our congregational vitality, we have our congregational development, which is Ellen Ekevog and Susie Schaefer. And then as a subset of that is where the College for Congregational Development, CCD, falls within that area. We also have our campus ministry, which is mainly which is only at this point Michigan State and U of M. And then our ministry with young people, which is all the function that Carmen oversees. She has a slew of program codes underneath that all roll up into this. And
Chris.
then within go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry, but we do actually have campus ministry at Wayne State as
Oh,
well.
yep. That one's that is funded, I believe, through churchwide mission support.
Oh,
That
got it.
is
So it doesn't hit our budget then.
no, it hits under the Episcopate.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
right. It's for some reason it's a lesser funding, and I think ELCA
Mhm.
covers more of that expense for like Ben Adams and his
Okay.
folks.
All right. Oh, so I apologize. I'm
No,
muddying the
that's okay. That's
waters.
okay.
That was a
It's
question. I was wondering the same.
Okay.
no, thanks for asking because that was overlooked earlier. Um, so under the Episcopate, you kind of think of that. This is mainly bishops like program group and the Episcopate oversees and supports all of the various programs. So it's kind of like a program overhead if you want to try to give it some sort of deeper classification. So within that, we have like our canonical expenses. So anything that's kind of canonically required or just, related to our canons at all, those expenses will flow through there. We also have within there that some of our um like our training, like the what was the thing in March? The with the dang nabbit.
Safe Church?
No, it wasn't Safe Church. It was the offsite for all of our for like our rectors. They got
Oh.
together
Clergy conference.
the clergy conference. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah,
So
you didn't hear me when I had myself muted, so sorry about that.
that's all good. So that falls in there. We have our church-wide mission support. So like I said, that is going to be the majority of that's going to be our tech support. So the Episcopal Church. So our apportionment that we're required to pay. We have the campus ministry for Ben Adams in there. And then we also have like our Province 5 support. Episcopate General captures all of Bishop's costs, so stuff that's related to Bishop and her travels and her support of the various congregations, and then everybody's favorite diocesan convention. So we track that one on its own as well. And then
Great.
our next group is our public witness. So within that, we have our advocacy ministry. So that was the March, April grants that we had issued. The communications department, this is Dennis, so this is just general, um, maintaining the website, right, getting all the communications out across everybody in the diocese. We have our sustainable development goals and companion diocesan relationship, which is some separate grants that we offer for folks to apply to. Then we have our social ministry programs. Again, just like the advocacy grants, these were the March, April applications that came in that we awarded. And then we had our spirituality and race, which is Sister V's department or program that she runs. And I don't know if I mentioned, I think I did communications is Dennis Boyd.
Right. Mhm.
And then our administration department, which is just our, essentially our general overhead that just helps keep everything on track. We've got myself in there. We've got our HR team, the rest of our finance team, and we have actually Susan falls in there as well as kind of all the program administrator.
Chris,
Yeah, yes, Cedric.
I might be jumping ahead, but do you, I know this is probably kind of way ahead of schedule, and I remember somewhere back a long time ago that they put away for the election of a bishop whenever that time comes. Do you uh, put something away, or is there something that accumulates so when that time comes that they you know are in line with working with that program?
Yep, we do. Yep, we do a monthly accrual for that, and that is built into the budget as well. That expense that generally falls in our, I believe, our Episcopate General bucket.
Okay,
But yeah, we are setting aside. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I can get that.
no problem.
Any other questions on this slide before we move ahead? Okay. All right. So as we start to talk about the 2027 budget, now's a great time to give an update of where we are in 2026. This is all through April 30th of 2026. Um, and we have most of those expenses entered. I believe we should have at least maybe 95% at worst of the expenses booked at that point. And just looking at this file, so along our left column here where we see category, this is the expense and income categories that I was kind of referring to. So we had our congregational pledges, dividends and interest, contributions, other income, and then within expenses, right? These are the buckets. So within each of these buckets, there's multiple what we call general ledger codes that expenses roll up into. But for a summary presentation, we just go to a high level category. So we have like our salary and benefits, professional fees, so on and so on. And then these first four columns are our actuals. So this is historical actuals for 2023, 2024, 2025. This is on a full year basis, those three. And it is worth to note that 2025 has not yet been audited, so that's why we do have a net surplus in there still. We'll have some expenses and whatnot that once we wrap up 2025 and go to audit, that we'll utilize and bring that surplus down. And then we also have our 2026 again, which is also not audited and is only through April 30th. And then the next three categories are either our budget, which are the first two columns here, the light gray and then the white. And then the dark gray is the variance. So that's our 2026 year-to-date actual versus our 2026 year-to-date budget. So starting at the full year of 2026 budget, as we presented at convention, we have a balanced budget. So we have no surplus or deficit that was budgeted. However, when we look at our year-to-date budget, you'll see that we're showing a deficit of almost 48,000. That was just based on historically we've kind of just budgeted for the year and then just divided by 12, right, for each month. So we tried to smooth out the budget for this year to put expenses in the periods that we typically incur them, just so that we're not going to have timing variances too much. So again, we have a 2026 full year budget that was, a balanced budget. However, when we look at through April, we're showing about a $48,000 projected loss. But now when we go over our variance column, we'll see that we actually show a $146,000 unfavorable variance, so a deficit. The biggest item there that's driving that and actually drives it into the deficit range is on the Tannehill. Tannehill historically was paid in April, so we budgeted that full amount in April. So we budgeted, like 233,000. That payment came in May, so it was just delayed by a month. So if we were looking at this in June with all of our May actuals in, our net deficit of 146,000 would be closer to a net surplus of 100,000. So that was all driven by Tannehill on the income side. We are a little bit ahead on our congregational pledges. Some of that was we had under budgeted because we didn't have all of our pledge cards in at that point. So we made some estimates, and some folks came in higher than what were estimated. So we should hopefully see, that favorable variance continue through the year. Dividends and interest, right? That was just kind of a swag that we do. We're pretty spot on there. So about 8,000 difference, and contributions are just some random things that come in throughout the year. And that one we did just do a straight line budget estimate on. Any questions on the income side?
That Tannehill is the one that you said was the 9% interest that we get?
No, that was that one that makes up about 9% of our income.
Okay.
Yeah. And that all came in, and it actually came in higher. I think we came in closer to like 240 in May. So
Okay.
it was late, but also higher. So we'll have
Okay.
some
Yeah.
benefit from that as well.
And so,
So
Chris, the
oh yeah,
office expenses is largely just about the backlog in getting credit card
exactly. Yep.
worked out.
Yep. I was just gonna speak to that, Michelle. Thank you. So Cedric, I'm sure you're seeing the only negative, the in our expenses, which stands out is, we're $44,000 over on office supplies. Um,
Hmm.
while we like our post-it notes, we don't like them that much. And what happens there is, previously every month when our credit card statement came in,
Yeah.
we would book that on the balance sheet and not on the income statement. And then we would take it off the balance sheet and put it to the income statement once all the credit card reports came in. So what we did this year was we did away with that, and as our credit card statement comes in, we book those expenses, in the correct month. And but because we're not sure where they're supposed to go necessarily, we book it to the office expense so that it'll stand out. And then we book it based on each credit card holder's main program code. So sometimes you'll see swaps between program codes, and you'll definitely see most of the expenses come out of office expense and go into the correct category. And typically, those categories are going to be our conference meetings and events, our travel and related business, and then equipment and software. So once we get those expense reports, and I'm trying to work on that too. Right now, we hold allocating all of that until we get all the expense reports in. I'd like to try to figure out if there's a way we can not hold it up so much and then just knock it out as expense reports come in. So that's something we're working on. But overall, when we look at our total expenses, we're about $25,000 better than plan there. So again, while it looks concerning at $146,000 deficit, the Tannehill funds, which we just paid a month late, swings us right into about a favorable of $100,000 surplus. And then, with our expenses are all positive at this point as well.
And Chris, not to get into the weeds too
Yeah.
much, it, is it the case that individual staff members are responsible for coding their expenses, or is that something that that's like, for example, Crystal or someone else is tasked
No,
with doing
so right
all of
now it is the owner of the credit card. So each individual program person,
got it?
is they don't necessarily always code. They'll let us know if it's a different program, if it should be a different program code. Um, but yeah, generally, and then sometimes they do know the expense, the GL expense, and they'll give us that as well. But a lot of times it's Kara will, goes through them line by line and validates the charge against the receipt and codes them at that point.
Well, and that's kind of just internal controls as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I mean, I think there could be some efficiencies, right?
Sure.
And
Well, and
cleaner.
that's knowing that, staffing is very, very lean, right? At the
Mhm.
point, and those are the kinds of bottlenecks that sometimes are really challenging.
Yeah, indeed. Um, any other questions on the expense or if something else came up on the income side that you thought of? Okay, we'll move on. All right, so this is getting to the heart of what we're here for today. So this is our initial pass of the 2027 budget. So again, you're kind of seeing on the left side the same categories: income, expense. We got rid of 2023 and 2024 as far as actual expenses, but left them up there just so we kind of have a little bit of a reference point. And then now we have our 2026 budget in this column. We have the changes that we're proposing for 2027 at this point, and then our total 2027 budget. So on the income side, again, so we're about $114,000 higher than last year. Oops. Which actually on a percentage, like a year over year percentage change basis is one of the higher percentages we've seen. So we'll have to wait and really see once we get some of these other congregations numbers and we put out the pledge cards just to see if that's usually when folks realize they made a mistake in reporting any income. But like I said, I tried to adjust it for some of the ones that seemed somewhat outlandish. So we'll see once we get to August, where the congregational pledges come in at. And then on our dividends and interest, I'm planning, or it looks like we're going to have about $25,000 increase in our shares from 2026. So the trustees meet at the end of I'm sorry, the beginning of September, and we'll look at the 20 quarter average ending with June 30th of 2026, and they will decide on the dividend rate at that point. Actually, it's August, I believe, not September. I'm sorry. September's council. I believe we decide that in August. But right now, based on the 19 quarters of actuals and holding the net asset value at the same rate, we're calculating a 38.84 cent share or per share dividend rate, which is up about a penny and a half or so from where we are this year. Which on our investment is about $25,000. Then the other one you see is the Tannehill distribution. Again, kind of basing that off a year over year increase, and expect that to maybe grow by another 4,000 or so. Any questions on the income side?
I guess, are we hearing anything? I mean, we are in a volatile time, right? And I
Mhm.
guess I'm wondering if are we hearing anything from parishes? Is there anything, just in terms of um, just whether or not parishes are experiencing any kinds of concerns or issues with their, um, with pledge funds coming in?
I haven't heard. I haven't
Okay.
heard at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are just so many variables right now
Yep.
that create a sense of anxiety and precarity. Um, so I was just wondering if there had been any feedback.
No, yeah, and so far, I'm really just kind of looking at where we are through May. I went through and we went through and posted today. Um, we've got the majority of, I think, um, parishes or congregations are at their have met their pledge, year to date wise. So, I mean, there's a
Mhm.
couple that are behind, but they've been paying at their full pledge allocation. So just looking at 2026 right now, there aren't any indications. But like you said, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in the future here. So, um, but we're not seeing that currently. So hopping down to our expense side, so our largest increase is, based on that 4% COLA, the healthcare and other insurances, which equates to about a $61,000 increase year over year. And hopefully, as the year goes on, that the COLA number should hopefully come down. 4% is not typical on Social Security, but it's not unheard of either. Um,
Mhm.
but also I think we may be a little light on the medical side and the other benefit side too. So we may have to adjust some things there. And I'll just kind of just go down the row, not necessarily in any particular order here. So looking at our professional fees, just anticipating about a $2,000 increase, and that's mainly right now for our audit. We expect that to maybe go to about the $17,000 range for our 2020. That'll be our 2026 audit, which will be done in 2027. And then buildings and grounds, which is one of the next largest increase we're seeing. 2,000 of that is what I'll call like a known unknown. Right now, we don't know what the increase is going to be, but we do know, insurance is going to go up. We estimated about 10%, which is an increase of about 2,000. And then the other $24,000 increase year over year is we're anticipating a potential increase for our chapter maintenance fee. So that's for the diocesan offices over at the cathedral. We haven't seen an increase in a couple of years. So just estimating that might go up 2,000 a month to make our total there to be about $17,000 a month. And honestly, kind of looking at the foot space we have, I believe that rate is on a square footage basis. That's maybe even on the lower side. So while it seems high, for the offices in that area of the city, that is a comparable amount. So.
Mhm.
Nothing there that I think is of too much concern. Office expenses, just holding those flat. Again, kind of when you're looking at 2026, those show high just because of the credit card. Then the next line, the communication and PR line. So we put about 5,000 in there for 2027. We didn't have anything in 2025 or 2026. But we had some surplus that we were able to utilize, for a marketing campaign. If you remember the billboard signs that we did back in at Christmas time. So maybe something like that again, or some other campaign that we can do to just try to bring awareness and just let folks know who the Michigan Episcopal Diocese or the Episcopal Diocese of Michigan are, right, is, and just try to get some awareness for our congregations out in the public. The next line, conferences, meetings, and events. So we put an increase in there for about 13,000 from 2026. The Civil Rights Pilgrimage, like this year was a lower crowd, which made the event much more enjoyable and in more thorough for folks. But unfortunately, it's not a direct one for one ratio on variable expense. So we would need a little more money there to help with that. Just planning on some convention costs that could go up. And putting in for like some miscellaneous diocesan events, if like the End Gun Violence, Governor's Forum that we held there a couple weekends ago. The next one, which is one of the other higher expense increases, are denominational support, and that's simply a formula from tech, and that's going to be our largest expense item in that category. Travel and related, so we're projecting about $2,000 increase, and that's just mileage reimbursement increases are we expect that to go up. So we were just trying to budget a little something there to cover that. Grants and partnerships, which is one of the other categories that we're increasing. So that's a $16,000 increase from 2026. We saw significant demand on our social services and advocacy grants. So instead of having to turn folks away or whatnot, we'd like to try to set aside some additional money there. That's been relatively flat grant amounts for the last couple of years. So with assuming we can hit our the income estimates that we have, we'd like to add another 16,000 there at this point. And then on the equipment and software side, about 2,000 just for some of the software programs that we use. Of course, they always have their year-over-year increases. So we're just trying to allocate for some of that. Any questions at all, either on the income or the expense items that we've presented for the 2027 draft budget at this point?
I guess, Chris,
Yeah.
we've spent, time at council talking about trying to manage the healthcare costs,
Yeah.
how the diocesan staff has really been the leading edge on experimenting with some different kinds of plans to support healthcare for clergy and staff. Is there any, I get it's very early, right? I mean, it's only May. But I guess I'm just wondering I'm wondering if that initiative, like if you're seeing any results or any kind of data on that at all.
So, I mean, I haven't heard of anybody on the staff, having great concerns at all. So in my mind, without actually doing a reach out, I think it's going well, and folks have been okay with it. I know we have, the healthcare committee. I have not seen like a latest report from them. I don't know where their hearts have gone on that. But yeah, probably anticipate we'll see something proposed to roll out across all congregations similar to what we've done at the diocesan offices, just to help them with some of their increases that
Sure.
they'll probably see.
Yeah, because certainly, right, helpful at that parish level as well.
Yeah.
Because the parishes struggle, I think, tremendously with those upticks in costs.
Yep.
I believe that the healthcare committee is working on a survey and report that should be coming out here shortly. I've seen some things on it, but nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks,
So
Susan.
we should hear more on that.
Cool. Anything else, Cedric? Do you have any?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. All right. So that that does bring us to the end. The other thing I wanted to make note of is that we had received no resolutions, which required funding out of the budget. So that's the one other point I wanted to get out. And then as this presentation will be posted on our website at some point, along with the copy of the Zoom meeting. So if you'd like to go back and listen again, it'll be out there at some point tomorrow. And then the last page in here is just a historical and budget comparison. It's a one pager. So if you recall, when we talked about budget, I took out 2023 and 2024. This has everything in here just so you can kind of see everything on one page. So if that is all we have, since I forgot to have an opening prayer, I shall close us in prayer, pending any last questions that may come up. Okay, let us pray.
Great.
Father, thank you for providing this diocese with its great gifts and resources to help support its mission and your mission across the Episcopal Diocese of Michigan and its congregation and all of its stakeholders. Grant us the knowledge and the wherewithal to use these funds in the best interest of the congregations. And thank you for the time that everybody has provided this evening. May everybody have a great evening.
You too,
In
Chris.
Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You too, Chris.
All right, everybody. Take care. Thank you. We'll get
Thanks,
these posted
Chris.
as soon as possible.
Thank you,
Okay.
Susan.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.